Ma'am, we need to see proof of citizenship, now.
I'm an American veteran. I served in Afghanistan. You have no right to stop me.
We have every right. Show us your papers or you're coming with us.
You want proof? Fine. But you're going to regret every second of what happens next.
All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are breaking down a seriously tense standoff that was all caught on a security camera. It's between a former Army intelligence officer and several federal agents. And trust me, this isn't just some viral video. It's a real-time lesson in constitutional rights, and it all goes down in a place you would never, ever expect.
So, this is where it all kicks off. This one sentence. An agent walks up and makes this demand, and that single assertion of authority is what sparks the entire confrontation. Just, try to imagine for a second you're the one hearing that.
Okay, let's set the scene. We are in the parking lot of a Lowe's in San Antonio, Texas. It's just after 2 in the afternoon, and it is brutally hot, 102 degrees. You can practically feel the heat coming off the asphalt. What should just be a normal, everyday errand is about to turn into this high-stakes legal battle.
And how do we get to see all this? Well, it's all thanks to this one security camera, perched up on a light pole. It's our impartial eye in the sky, you could say. It captures every single moment with total clarity, and it even gives us a timestamp so we can see how every crucial second unfolds. We're about to be a fly on the wall for this whole thing.
So, who is this woman at the center of it all? Her name is Natasha Reeves. She's 34, a U.S. Army veteran who did 2 tours in Afghanistan. But here's the part you really need to pay attention to. She's a former Army intelligence officer. She's a Bronze Star recipient. This means she has been trained specifically to handle exactly this kind of intense, high-pressure situation.
And then they show up. 3 federal agents. They're part of a task force that's vaguely focused on document fraud. But watch how they approach her. They don't just, walk up and say hello. They move tactically, surrounding her in what's known as a containment formation. They're essentially boxing her in, probably thinking this is just another routine stop. They are about to find out how wrong they are.
And right here, this is where the whole thing pivots. We're now in the constitutional challenge, and it all starts when Natasha asks one simple but incredibly powerful question. See, she doesn't just get nervous and comply. Nope, she immediately flips the script on them, questioning the actual legality of the stop in the first place. She asks for probable cause, and then she goes a step further. She lays out a legal argument right then and there. She's saying this isn't targeted, this is profiling. She's not just asking, she is making a very serious accusation.
So how does the lead agent respond to that? Well, he doesn't give her probable cause. Instead, he does a little pivot. He reframes her standing up for her rights as suspicious behavior. It's a really common move, actually. Try to make the person who knows their rights look like they have something to hide. And then the demand turns into a threat.
But Natasha is completely ready for this. She doesn't just say, I know my rights. She names the specific right, the Fourth Amendment. And you have to listen to the exact legal phrase she uses here. Articulable suspicion. That's the key. That's the legal standard. An officer can't just stop you on a hunch. They have to be able to state, to articulate, specific facts that justify it. She is schooling them on constitutional law in the middle of a blazing hot parking lot.
Okay, so let's pause for a second and talk about what this actually means. An unreasonable seizure. That's when the government detains you without a good legal reason. And there are levels here. For a brief stop, like what's happening right now, an officer needs that reasonable, articulable suspicion Natasha just talked about. But for a full-on arrest, they need something much stronger, probable cause. By hitting them on that first step, she's trying to stop them from ever getting to the second.
And this is the moment. You can just see it, where her training as an intelligence officer completely takes over. She's not just arguing the law anymore. She is now strategically taking control of the information and of the entire encounter.
And check this out. She doesn't just react, she executes a plan. It's like a textbook 3-step strategy for handling this. First, she starts recording with her phone and announces it, so there's a record. Second, she clearly states her rights again and her status as a veteran for everyone around to hear. And third, this is the game changer. She calls her lawyer and puts her on speakerphone.
And bam, just like that, everything changes. A new voice cuts in, and it's professional, it's sharp, it's authoritative. Suddenly, this isn't just Natasha versus 3 agents anymore. Now it's 3 agents versus Natasha and her lawyer from the Texas Civil Rights Project. The whole power dynamic just got turned completely upside down.
So, with a lawyer on the line, the pressure just ratchets up to a whole new level. The agents, they're suddenly on their back foot. They have to justify what they're doing.
not just to a civilian, but to a legal expert who is also recording every single word they say.
And what's so wild here is that we can see the tension build second by second, thanks to that security camera timestamp. The attorney asks for probable cause, and then nothing. Just silence. For what feels like an eternity, but is really only 3 seconds. The agents just look at each other. You can tell, in that silence they have totally lost control of the situation.
So really, what this whole thing boils down to is a clash between two very different ways of talking. On one side, you've got the agents using these vague, fuzzy justifications, things like targeted inquiry or operational directive. And on the other side, you've got the lawyer with these laser-focused legal challenges. What specific articulable facts? No reasonable suspicion. It's the classic battle of vague authority versus specific rights.
And you know, this whole thing isn't happening in a vacuum. People are starting to notice. A crowd is gathering. Shoppers, store employees, they're all stopping to watch. And what are they doing? They're pulling out their own phones, and they're recording too. So now the agents aren't just performing for Natasha and her lawyer, they're on a public stage, with an audience and multiple cameras pointed right at them.
All right, so this brings us to the climax. The lead agent feels the pressure, he's losing control, he's being challenged legally, and he's got an audience. So he makes a decision that's going to define this entire incident. He decides to physically arrest Natasha.
And even now, as the agent is literally moving in to arrest her, just listen to her. She is incredibly calm. She's not shouting. She's not fighting them. She is narrating what is happening to her for the record, for her lawyer on the phone, for the crowd watching, and for all those cameras. She is documenting her own seizure as it happens.
Let's just walk through these final moments. The agent grabs her arm, but look, she doesn't pull away. She doesn't physically resist at all. Her phone is still on. Her lawyer is still listening to everything. And even as they put her in handcuffs, she just keeps calmly stating her case. And that security camera, that impartial, unblinking eye, it captures every last detail of what really looks like a constitutional violation in progress.
And that's where the footage ends, leaving us with this huge hanging question. This entire incident, from the first word to the final moment, really came down to the discretion of that one agent. And it forces us all to ask a really tough question. When does an officer's official discretion cross that line from being a tool for law enforcement and turn into a violation of our most basic constitutional rights?
Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to break down a story that doesn't take place in some fancy courtroom or government building, but in a totally ordinary place, a Lowe's parking lot. And it's an incredible story about how one person who just happened to know her rights could stand up to the full power of the federal government. Just think about that statement for a second. That one sentence, spoken while she was in handcuffs, is really the turning point of this whole thing. It's this incredibly powerful line that turns an otherwise normal day into a huge case about what the Fourth Amendment actually means. So how on earth did we get here? All right, so it all starts right here. Picture this. Dr. Natasha Reeves, she's just bought some lumber. She's loading it into her truck, minding her own business, when suddenly 3 plainclothes ICE agents show up and surround her. Now, what's so remarkable about this situation is that Natasha Reeves was, in a way, uniquely prepared for this exact moment. I mean, look at this. A decorated combat vet, 2 tours in Afghanistan, background in intelligence. She was literally trained to stay calm under pressure, to assess threats, and to document everything. That training was about to be put to the ultimate test. So the agents don't just walk up and say hello. They immediately form this tactical containment formation around her. Basically, they box her in. And right away, they're demanding to see her papers. But here's the key. They give her 0 legal reason for the stop. They don't say she committed a crime, they don't have a warrant, nothing. And that's the move that kicks this whole thing off. So this is where things get really intense. This is the standoff. It's where Natasha's training and her incredible composure completely flip the script on them. It becomes a masterclass on how to assert your rights. Instead of panicking, which I think most of us would do, she starts asking these incredibly precise, legally important questions. By asking, "Am I under arrest?" she's forcing them to define what's happening. See, she's not just asking a question. She's building a legal record, right there in the middle of a parking lot. Okay, so this is the absolute key to the whole encounter. There's a huge legal difference here. To just detain someone, officers need what's called reasonable suspicion that a crime might be happening. But to actually arrest them, they need a much higher standard, probable cause. The agents had neither, and Natasha knew it. Her questions totally exposed how weak their legal position was from the get-go. Her strategy here was just brilliant. When they try to force her into their vehicle, she just plants her feet. She's not fighting them, she's not physically resisting, but she is refusing to comply with what she knows is an unlawful order. And she's doing all of this while calmly saying the agents' names and badge numbers out loud, so her attorney, who's already on the phone listening in, can hear everything. And this whole thing went down so fast. Look at this timeline. We're talking about 18 minutes from start to finish. In just 18 minutes, she's confronted, handcuffed, gets her lawyer on the phone, and that lawyer gets all the way up the chain of command to the agent's supervisor. And that final step, the supervisor ordering them to stand down, was just total validation. She was right the entire time. Of course, the story doesn't just end in the parking lot. Oh no, it moves to the courtroom. And every single second of that encounter was about to be put under a massive microscope. And the mountain of evidence against these agents was just overwhelming. See, Natasha had intentionally positioned herself right in front of a security camera. So you have that, plus 3 different body cam recordings, plus the audio from her lawyer's phone call, and the real kicker, ICE's own training manuals. There was just no doubt about what happened. This was the bombshell moment of the trial. The agent's own supervisor, the guy who told them to let her go, gets on the witness stand under oath and admits the whole thing was completely unjustified from the start. I mean, what a stunning confirmation coming from inside their own agency. So the agent's main defense was something called qualified immunity. It's a complex legal idea that often protects government officials from being sued. But that whole defense just fell apart when Natasha's lawyer used ICE's own rulebooks to prove the agents hadn't just made a simple mistake. They had violated crystal clear protocols they were trained to follow. They should have known better. So, with all the evidence laid out, the case finally went to a jury, and their decision was about to send some major shockwaves. A complete, total victory. After 6 long days, the jury came back and sided with Natasha on every single claim. It was such a powerful statement that our constitutional rights are not up for negotiation. And then came the damages. The jury awarded Natasha Reeves $7.6 million. This wasn't just a number, it was a message, a very loud one. Let's just break this down. The compensatory damages, that was to compensate her for the harm she went through. But the punitive damages, that $3.3 million, that had a very different and specific purpose: to punish the agents for what they did and to deter this kind of misconduct from ever happening again. And the accountability here was personal. It wasn't just about the money. The lead agent, fired. Another one, resigned. The third was moved to a desk job, away from the public. The verdict led to real, tangible consequences for their actions. But the impact of this case goes so much further than the money or what happened to those 3 agents. Let's talk for a minute about the lasting legacy of that day. Natasha used a part of her settlement to build something positive out of this whole ordeal. She founded this organization to make sure that other veterans who face discrimination have the legal firepower they need to fight back. And here is where the story really comes full circle. The very same footage that proved her case is now being used as a training tool. It's a cautionary tale for law enforcement on what not to do, and it's an incredible lesson for all of us on how to calmly and effectively stand up for our rights. So when you really step back and look at it, one person's stand in one parking lot created all of this. It set a new legal precedent, it forced an internal policy review, it raised huge public awareness, and it became a catalyst for both training reform and empowering the community. You know, it leaves us with this really powerful idea. We live in an age of constant surveillance, and that can be scary. But Natasha Reeves showed us that when you know your rights and you stand your ground, those same cameras can become the ultimate tool for justice and accountability. And that's really the question her story leaves all of us with, isn't it? It suggests that the answer is this mix of knowledge, of courage, and the simple composure to stand your ground, even when you feel like you're standing all alone in a parking lot.